is Bloomberg UTV.
Hello there, this is Talkback. I'm Hindol Sengupta. Returning on my show in a new avatar is Nandan Nilekani, the man who's going to give every Indian a unique identity number. Nandan, welcome to the show once again.
Thank you, Hindol.
I want to begin by asking you the big question that all of India wants to ask you. What is the biggest bureaucratic challenge that you've faced from the time you took over the scheme?
Well, actually, I've really had a very smooth passage so far. I think the Prime Minister personally is very committed. He invited me to do this job, and he and his colleagues in the cabinet, Mr. Mukherjee, Mr. Chidambaram, everybody is very, very supportive. The cabinet secretary and his colleagues are very supportive. So actually, I'm having a very good time. For example, I have an office in the Planning Commission thanks to Mr. Aluwalia, who's again been very, very supportive. So I think I really have no complaints. I think they're going out of the way to make me feel at home in government.
It's a huge challenge. The big question that people want to ask, this identity number will most likely bring about a huge change in accountability. But since it's the government, it's a government scheme, it's the government which is giving these identity numbers to the people, what is the fear that it will become like another ration card? That because the government is the body that's creating this system, it is the government, the state that will manipulate the system.
Well, I think we obviously want to use a technology platform to make sure that we have high quality numbering. We will use biometrics to make sure that everybody has a unique number. We will use a process called deduplication to make sure there are no duplicates. And we'll provide online authentication. That means if you walk in somewhere and say you're Hindol, and we'll ask you to put your finger on the fingerprint reader, and within 5 seconds you'll get a response back from our system saying that it is him. So all these things, which are essentially using technology in different innovative ways, we think will make a big impact on the people.
Are you assuring the people then that the government interference in manipulating the system cannot be done or will not be tried?
Well, I think we are building a platform which we hope will be robust and solid, and because it's using technology and it's sort of automated, it should be something which works everywhere, and so I think it should work.
Okay, explain to us. A lot of people want to ask, biometrics around the world have been used for what, a few million people? You're talking about 1.2 billion people.
Yeah, I would say the largest biometric database would be about 120 million people today.
That's right.
So we are talking about a database that is 10 times.
At least 10 times. Yes.
Yeah.
What is the big technological hurdle, if any, that you face when you try to do that, when you try to scale up in one go 10 times? And what is the very technological measures, because you're basically a technology person, that you need to apply and that you have or maybe don't have to get this entire process done?
Well, there are two problems. One is to do deduplication, where to compare a new person entering the system with the existing names and their fingerprints to make sure that he's not coming in under some other name. That means to make sure there are no duplicates. That deduplication is a very compute intensive task, because let's say 3-4 years from now we have about 400 million names in the database, and 1 million people come one day wanting a number. Each of those million has to be checked against all the 400 million, and you do that all within less than a day, because next day another million people will land up. So that throughput is a huge technological challenge, and that's not been done anywhere in the world. The second challenge is that in the Indian context, especially in rural India, because people work with their hands, often their fingerprints are not in as pristine a condition as a blue collar worker is, and therefore how do we deal with less than super quality fingerprints and still deliver that authentication? So there are a lot of issues of that kind we need to deal with.
That's a fascinating thing that you're saying. You're saying essentially, A, the volumes are too large. B, you're saying perhaps uniquely in India, perhaps will only be true again in sub-Saharan Africa, you actually have people whose fingerprints might not be qualitatively good enough for you to use in this huge biometric system. What will you do to surpass these challenges?
Well, on the deduplication side, we'll have to come into the computing architecture and a searching algorithm which allows us to do what we have to do. So that is a lot of technology which our top brains will work on. On this side, we'll have to see whether fingerprints is adequate as a authentication mechanism, or whether we need an additional biometric like the iris. using the eye, because that's also a well-known way of authentication. So we have set up a biometrics committee now under Dr. Gairola, who is the Director General of the NIC, and they're going to get into details on this and we'll come out. So all that is part of the task ahead of us in the next few months.
The other big question that people want to know is, there was a time when most of our elections were fraudulent. That was the time when people used to physically write sheets of paper and put them in. One of the big leap of technology, and a simple technology, is our electronic voting machines. And now there are some people who question the electronic voting machines too. In my mind, when I look at this entire scheme to give a unique identity number, it immediately talks about accountability to that level. Whereas, all this Narega funds, for instance, all the siphoning off of money, if you have a unique number, you can't actually siphon off that money. It has to go to the person it's, determined for. What are the chances of, question marks coming out in this gigantic process of technology that you're going to do?
Well, I mean, I'm sure there are going to be a lot of challenges ahead. I mean, this is a project of humongous proportions and it's unprecedented anywhere in the world. So, and there are going to be a lot of teething troubles as we go along. There are going to be issues like the fingerprint quality and so on. So we are going to face, it's not a cakewalk to do this project. But I think we'll be able to deal with that. And I think the people of India are going to benefit from this, because today the poor are the ones who are suffering the most from lack of identity. The rich are fine. They have passports, driver's license, credit cards, club memberships, all that stuff. The poor have no identity. They have no birth certificates. They have no educational records. There are 75 million homeless in this country. There are nomadic people in this country who don't have a house. So it's for them. This ID program is really for them, and they will benefit. And I think once they start benefiting, I think that's what gives this program its strength, that the common man is going to benefit from this. The poor are going to benefit. It is the ultimate form of inclusive growth. See, our database cannot be read by anyone.
Right.
All we are creating is an identity verification service.
Okay.
So if you go somewhere and say, I'm Hindol,
they will know that I'm Hindol.
It will just say, yes, it is Hindol, that's all. It won't give your address away, it won't give your age away, it won't give you a thing.
Okay.
Only if you put your address and send it to the server will come back and say, yes, the address that he has given you is the same as on our system. Right. So the only answer from our system is a yes or a no. So in that sense, it's really a system only for verification of identity.